Top 10 Urban Myths That Are Messed Up But True. Stories and legends have charmed and sickened individuals of all societies for quite a long time. These accounts transform into legends when they're broadly coursed, gradually developing into facts. Numerous fantasies have been the motivation for Hollywood's "depends on a genuine story" slogan. And keeping in mind that you may question the validness of a portion of those cases, there are metropolitan legends that truly hold some piece of truth. Continue to peruse to discover 10 of the most interesting legends that really occurred. 10. The man who flew away on a balloon lawn chair. Larry Walters Fly. The exemplary saying in kids' shows where a man is lifted into the air by inflatables attached to a seat has a genuine story behind it. In San Pedro, California, Larry Walters was the principal man to become airborne utilizing only a folding chair and 45 helium-filled climate inflatables. Walters would have liked to fly across the mountain reach to arrive at the Mojave Desert. A companion shot of the endeavor, which you can watch on the web. The flight was just semi-fruitful. Walters figured out how to arrive at 16,000 feet and flew for 45 minutes before getting ensnared in electrical cables. Luckily, Walters figured out how to descend to security safe, however law authorization captured him promptly for disregarding U.S. federal aviation regulations. He acquired overall acknowledgement for the amazing trick. Since the spearheading trip in 1982, an amazing number of individuals have endeavored to reproduce the custom-made airplane. It likewise propelled the 2003 film Danny Deckchair and the limit game of group ballooning. 9 Rat Kings. The strange and disgusting history of Rat Kings. An exceptionally odd fantasy surely. Individuals have been revealing rodent lords since the mid-16th century, and we're not discussing delegated rodents. The name rodent ruler alludes to the alleged marvel where rodents' tails become tangled together. It was accepted to be legendary. At this point there is proof of this truly occurring. The best rodent ruler found and safeguarded in 1828 had upwards of 32 rodents bound together along these lines. We used to believe that individuals just created these sorts of examples. Zoologists were distrustful that it could happen normally. As of late as 2005, an Estonian rancher found a rodent ruler comprising of 16 rodents. The tails were tangled together by frozen sand, with 9 of the rodents still alive. It is saved at the Natural History Museum at the University of Tartu. It appears nature can be this dreadful. The marvel was considered conceivable, however uncommon. 8. A Dress to Die For. Shading That Killed Napoleon. Shields Green, Little Art Talks. Fables overall describe the story of the harmed dress. In the old Greek story of Medea, Medea authorizes retribution on her ex-darling's new more youthful spouse with death by dress. Medea eliminates the dress from a carcass and sends it to Glauce, who wears it to a ball. On different occasions, it's her own wedding. She capitulates to the preserving liquid that has saturated the piece of clothing. The legend of the treating liquid, or formaldehyde, being a reason for death has endured, although it's been disproven. It turns out formaldehyde smells so unpleasant that it would be inconceivable not to see it. There is a shocking period ever, however, where producers utilized arsenic-bound colors in many apparel things during the 19th century. The richly green dresses that were extremely popular in high society wound up causing every one of the individuals who interacted with the texture to persevere through excruciating rankles, more regrettable still, horrendously agonizing passings. 7 Alligators in the Sewers of New York. The metropolitan legend of the monster, regularly pale-skinned person, crocs living in the sewer arrangement of New York has been passed down the ages, penetrated mainstream society, and is even celebrated with an informal occasion. February 9th is Alligators in the Sewers Day. Rumors have spread far and wide suggesting that rich families during the 1930s started keeping crocs as pets, yet once they became exhausted of them or seen the developed gators is too hard to even think about overseeing, they flushed them down the latrine. It's accepted that a huge settlement of sewer crocodiles has been threatening the sewers from that point onward. Truly, gators were once sold as pets and have been found in storm depletes and encompassing streams. The different stories of sightings and catches have been stoking the fire of this legend throughout the long term. Concerning the reptiles living and flourishing in the sewers, it turns out it's impractical. The climate is excessively cold and poisonous for crocs to endure long. 6. Cropsey Killer. Cropsey. Cropsey is a boogeyman legend that circled Staten Island towards the finish of the 20th century. The story goes that it got away from a mental patient living in the unwanted Willowbrick mental institution's old passages, hijacked and killed kids. The incredible figure would at times have a snare for a hand, on different occasions a butcher's blade, yet the narrative of a deadly insane person struck dread in the children who grew up there. The genuine story is comparably frightful. After a spate of youngster vanishings, Andre Rand, who had recently worked at the Willowbrick Institution and was then living on the neglected grounds, was captured and accused of Holly Ann Hughes' hijacking. This drove numerous Staten Island occupants to accept that Rand was the crazed executioner answerable for a few other vanished youngsters. Although there has been no actual proof connecting Rand to the violations, papers and Staten Islanders drew matches among Rand and Cropsey. A narrative called Cropsey explores the legend and the man expected to be the genuine Cropsey. One thing's without a doubt, it's hard to differentiate between current realities and the old stories. 5. A giant sea creature that terrorizes sailors. History of Kraken. Norse mariners would regularly relate stories of a monster tentacled animal that rose from the profundities of the sea and assaulted their boats. The reports expressed that this brutal ocean beast would shake the boat and even thump men over the edge with an appendage. They accepted the animal was chasing them and devouring their team individually. The Kraken fantasy has been an old nautical legend for quite a long time, yet is there any reality to this fantasy? All things considered, yes. These nerve-wracking trials' guilty party is the epic squid, the biggest of the squid species, significantly greater than the Goliath squid. Sure, the mariners' accounts were embellishments, however, who doesn't misrepresent experiences adrift? In 2003, specialists found a total example in Antarctic waters. These uncommon profound sea prowlers grow up to 14 meters in length and weigh in any event 500 kilograms. They likewise have turning snares on the limbs, club molded finishes, which make them significantly really frightening. 4. Real-life Beauty and the Beast. What inspired Magnificence and the Beast was too grim for Disney. Numerous stories depict legendary half-breeds from centaurs to mermaids. In any case, less captivating are the anecdotes about monsters that look like a human man, similar to the monster from Beauty and the Beast. There are a lot more records of a wild chimp-like man, from Bigfoot to werewolves. During the 1500s, a man named Petrus Gunsalves, a local of the Canary Islands, was brought into the world with an uncommon condition that we presently know as hypertrichosis, or werewolf disorder. The condition produces extreme hair development everywhere on the body, including the face. The hair totally covered Petrus, and individuals dealt with him like a creature. They even kept him in a pen and took care of him crude meat. At 10 years of age, he was introduced as a blessing to the new king of France, Henry II. The king needed to tame the savage, and chose to give the kid legitimate instruction. Seeing that Petrus was clever, he turned out to be attached to the kid and quit dealing with him like a creature, making him respectable. Petrus wedded an excellent lady at the court, and they had kids together, some of whom shared the hereditary condition. Could this amazing story be the genuine motivation for excellence and the monster? 3. Premature burial. You may have known about a couple of situations where individuals, being confused with the dead, were incidentally covered alive. Accounts of assumed bodies heard shouting from underground and unearthings that uncovered scratch blemishes within caskets had frequented us for quite a long time. The fear of being covered alive was so solid in Victorian occasions that chimes were set up and connected to dead bodies on the off chance that they at any point stirred. A few antiquarians even accept the expression, bailed out by luck, comes from this training. However, despite the notoriety of these well-being final resting places, there are no records of anybody really being saved along these lines. This doesn't mean the fantasy of being covered alive is false, yet it's certainly not as basic as we once accepted. Significantly more terrifying is that individuals have announced comparable occasions in present-day times. The latest instance of a mixed-up death occurred in 2020. Peter Kigan, a 32-year-old Kenyan man who was proclaimed dead, woke up in a mortuary to staff planning to preserve and empty the blood of his body. Kigan recovered awareness and started shouting after somebody had cut his leg open. Medical clinic carelessness is thought to be answerable for this stunning occurrence. 2. A real corpse is a Halloween beautification. Extremely dim metropolitan legend, utilized over and over as the plot for homicide secrets in film and TV, is the dead body in a Halloween show that winds up being a certified carcass. Individuals stroll by remarking on how practical it looks, and no one knows something horrible has happened. This one might be difficult to accept. All things considered, no measure of cosmetics and enhancements could persuade that numerous individuals' a decaying body is phony, correct? Lamentably, this isn't only an emotional scene worked out in Hollywood. It truly occurred. In 2015, a lady in Ohio was left for dead on a fence by a side of the road in the wake of being assaulted. She was at first confused with a Halloween enrichment by a few groups who saw the lady's body hanging off the steel fence. Nobody thought to report it since they trusted it to be a trick.